Hi guys, hope you are well. Happy Monday. Just about to start work. Doing my early morning exercises. Now I recorded this video in an interesting way because, as I said, more and more of these content is being copyrighted, so it makes it difficult to react real time. So I had a creative way of doing this. Now, this article came out, was it yesterday or Saturday evening, from the New York Times, and it basically says, as the title says, can King Charles heal a royal family crisis before it's too late? So I had to smudge the picture and I got a recording of the voice, sorry, a recording of the article so that we can react to it in real time. I thought it was quite interesting and I wanted to share it with you. So, yeah, let's get to it.
This before it's too late. This article is by Mark Landler and read by an automated voice. King Charles III was busy last week, marking the 80th anniversary of the Allied victory over Nazi Germany and preparing to fly to Canada to open its parliament later this month. But his public schedule was eclipsed yet again by a highly publicized eruption from his estranged younger son, Prince Harry. It has become a familiar pattern for the 76-year-old monarch. 2 years after his coronation, his reign is shaping up as both eventful and oddly unchanging in its core narrative, that of a beleaguered father managing a messy brood. Harry's emotional plea to be reconciled with his family, made in a recent interview with the BBC, in which he mused about how long his cancer-stricken father had left to live, resurfaced bitter ruptures within the royal family, which has yet to find its footing in the still-fledgling Carolean era. There is an overhang in the way we see Charles's reign, said Ed Owens, a historian who writes about the British monarchy. It hasn't really gotten going, nor are we sure how long it will last. To be sure, the king has done a lot. Despite undergoing weekly treatments for cancer diagnosed last year, he traveled to France, Australia, Poland, and Italy. He found time to curate a playlist for Apple Music, Kylie Minogue and Bob Marley feature, played host at state banquets, and posed for portraits. But Harry's comments, which came after a legal defeat over his security arrangements in Britain, dragged attention back to the rift that opened in 2020, when he and his wife Meghan withdrew from royal life and moved to California. Some royal watchers warn that unless Charles finds a way to heal that rift, it could define his reign, undercutting the messages of tolerance and inclusiveness that he has long championed. When history comes to be written about the king, this will reflect badly on him, said Peter Hunt, a former royal correspondent for the BBC. He represents an institution that is about family, unity, and fostering forgiveness. His role is to bring people together, and yet he can't bring people together on his doorstep. Buckingham Palace has declined to comment on the king's relationship with his son, but it pushed back on Harry's contention in the BBC interview that his father could have done more to spare him the loss of automatic, publicly funded police protection when he visits Britain. All of these issues have been examined repeatedly and meticulously by the courts, with the same conclusion reached on each occasion, a spokesman for the palace said in an unusually tart statement. An appeals court ruled on May 2nd that a government committee had acted properly in denying Harry automatic protection after he stopped being a working royal. He said he does not think it is safe to bring his wife and children home without such security. The palace appealed to journalists not to focus on the family drama during a week dedicated to VE Day commemorations. Far from calming the waters, Mr. Hunt said, that had the effect of keeping the spotlight on Harry longer than necessary. It's a private issue, but they are using the full weight of the institution to respond to him, Mr. Hunt said. Harry remains estranged from his older brother, Prince William, as well as his father, which adds to the portrait of a family divided and diminished. When the royals gathered on the balcony of Buckingham Palace to watch a flyover of warplanes last week, their ranks were noticeably sparse. The king's younger brother, Prince Andrew, is still in internal exile, following the scandal over his ties to the disgraced sex predator Jeffrey Epstein. Andrew's history also resurfaced in recent weeks with the death of Virginia Giuffre, a woman introduced to him by Mr. Epstein, with whom he later settled a sexual abuse lawsuit. Her family said she died by suicide in Australia. For William, the loss of Harry and Andrew, as well as his father's illness, has thrust him into a more conspicuously public role. He met with President Trump last year at the reopening of Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. He rode on a tank during a visit to British troops in Estonia, and he represented his father at the funeral of Pope Francis last month, which came only days after Charles and his wife, Queen Camilla, met Francis at the Vatican. William has sometimes been seen as work-shy, but we see him gravitating toward bigger, more media-friendly events, said Mr. Owens, the historian. He's burnishing his reputation as a statesman. William has put much of his energy into a program to tackle homelessness in 6 cities across Britain and Northern Ireland. Like his father, he continues to be active on climate change, though Mr. Owens said both had modulated their voices as net zero targets have become politically fraught. The heir to the throne made perhaps his biggest splash with the British public when he offered astute sports commentary last month before a Champions League game pitting his favorite soccer club, Aston Villa, against Paris Saint-Germain. One of the hosts, Rio Ferdinand, joked that he could take his job. The job that William does not want, at least for now, is his father's. But fears over the king's health have made talk of succession inescapable. In late March, Charles was briefly hospitalized after a reaction to his medication. The palace insisted it was a minor bump on the road to recovery, but it set off alarm bells at British broadcasters, for whom the passing of a monarch sets in motion substantial coverage. Nothing in the king's calendar suggests he is slowing down. If anything, he has embraced his duties with the zeal that royal watchers say is either evidence of a robust recovery or the mark of a man who knows he has limited time. When he opens Canada's Parliament on May 27th, it will be no ordinary royal visit. Charles, who is King of Canada, will be a symbol of Canadian sovereignty at a time when Mr. Trump is calling for it to become the 51st American state. By all accounts, Charles relishes his role as an agent of British soft power. He recently played host to President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine and sent Mr. Trump a letter inviting him on a second state visit to Britain. But such high-profile engagements, royal watchers say, do not disguise the fact that his illness has hindered him from pursuing the kinds of reforms to the British monarchy that many expected after his coronation. The man has had the wind taken from his sails, Mr. Owens said.
Right, okay. That ended very abruptly. I didn't even know it had ended. Okay, so I mean, it wasn't anything more that we didn't already know. I just want to once again remind everyone that Harry is asking for reconciliation, and he said truth is a necessary path to that reconciliation. I hate the way the press keeps on toadying on with that reconciliation talking point without being clear that Harry said he's not just sitting down at the door of the castle holding his chin and saying, "Come to me, daddy." He wants to have direct, honest, clear, no BS, no hiding behind anybody conversations about what went wrong the first time, which makes sense. Right? And let me tell you the reason why that reconciliation has not happened and is not going to happen, because Charles is not going to let that happen. Let's ignore William for now. Let's focus on Charles. Because, and this ties into the point about why they have refused to allow Ravek to do an objective analysis on Harry's security. Having those discussions will mean certain things will have to come to light. Now, I want to be clear. The main reason I believe Harry took Ravek to court was to get documentation, was to get discovery, right? Now, contrary to the nonsense the British media has said, I don't believe Harry wants to write another book. I think that's nonsense. But I do believe Harry was sending a message. I know who did what and when. I know. I've seen it. I have it in my hand. I know. And that's why I think he gave that press interview. I think he knew he was going to lose the appeal. But that press interview to me was not even necessarily even a warning. It was a kind of like, I know everything. I've seen everything. But even despite the things I've seen, which he said were shocking to him, and maybe a bit demoralizing because he was quite emotional in that interview, he is still willing to put himself out there and have discussions about reconciliation. So contrary to the nonsense the press is saying, Harry should be admired. I think we all know. They also mentioned in this interview, in this article, that there was, according to Buckingham Palace, there was nothing they could have done. BS. Harry said it in the interview, and he couldn't be any clearer. He wants his dad to get out of the way, aka his dad is the one blocking Ravec from doing its analysis on the safety of Harry and his family. He's basically saying, Dad, I know what's up. I'm not here to fight with you. I'm worried for my family and for their safety. Just get out of the way. The blocking that you are blocking, let them do their job. And that, to me, that's fair. Now, to the point about people getting angry at Harry for saying things like he's not sure how long the king has. Why are you getting angry at Harry? Should you not be getting angry at the king for not letting his child know what condition he is in? For Harry to have said that, that means he doesn't, again, this is, again, the media trying to turn people against Harry. And if you're not careful, if you're not paying attention, if you're not listening to the interviews themselves, instead of looking at clickbait and talking points, you are going to miss so much. Harry said a lot said a lot in that interview. He was very clear in that interview. His father doesn't talk to him. His father doesn't tell him anything. So he doesn't know if his father is dying, doesn't know if his father is in a dire state. His brother, and this is something that I will always hate William for, his brother isn't talking to him either. And I'm thinking to myself, William, at the very least, let your sibling know the state of your father's of your mutual father's health. And even if you hate him, at least let him know. That, to me, is the height of cruelty. And then saying that they don't talk to him because they don't trust him. Who was leaking? Sussex never, I don't know what they were called was it Sussex? It was Sussex, right? The Sussex Palace, or whatever they were calling themselves, did not leak, at least as far as I know. The press have never come forward to say any member of the Sussex team leaked anything to them. Because believe me, they would have, if any of them did. All the leaking came from Kensington Palace, his brother's people, and from what I heard, from Buckingham Palace too. So I don't understand, if anybody can be trusted, it is William and Charles. There's a reason why Harry comes into this country and nobody ever knows. I imagine if Harry wanted to test his father, he should just say, oh, I'm going to be here next week, and see what happens. And then if he goes out in the press, he tells him everything he needs to know. But let's not get sidetracked. A couple of last things from me. This idea of, I think, I do agree with what they've said. Charles's reign, as brief as it's about to be, is going to be remembered not for any good thing he's done, but for the rift between Harry and himself. And that is a disgrace. Because I'm sure he's doing something, but I don't pay attention to anything Charles does. But I can't see with the toadying press, maybe because again, this is where you can blame the press, because it's instead of focusing on actually highlighting the work Charles is doing, they are too busy chasing clickbait on Harry and Meghan, too busy spreading false narratives about Harry and Meghan getting a divorce, when our eyes, we are not blind, is clearly showing us that these people are happy together, telling us that Meghan is losing her Netflix deal, when again, our eyes, we can read, when we can see that Meghan is now a Netflix is now a business partner of Meghan's. So no deal is going anywhere. Stop focusing on nonsense and trying to create news and actually report the news. What does Charles do? What initiatives has he put forward? Let us know what he is up to. Nothing. And they don't even get me started with William. This article was doing a lot, I have to say. I almost sniggered in many places. William is setting himself up as a statesman, and the evidence of this is because he met and shook hands with Trump, had Trump drag him a bit, and he went to the Vatican, and the only reason why people even went is because he wore a blue suit, which I'm pretty sure he did intentionally, let's be honest, because let's be clear, if he had gone and worn black, nobody would have given it. I'm sorry to say. Do you guys agree with me that I think his people did that blue intentionally? I have to give it to them. They're not as stupid as they look. I think they did it intentionally because they know that without controversy, nobody would have given an absolute F that Prince William was there. And even then, a lot of that was just the internet dragging William. And William's so-called statesman appearance at the funeral was completely overshadowed by the Trump-Zelensky discussion, which the press was trying to give William credit for, which was just hilarious in my mind. Look, and then I love the fact that they call out the fact that William is work shy. This is the most, I haven't been around enough, obviously, but before Charles ascended the throne, we saw Charles everywhere. I mean, ignoring his hilarious and humiliating Camilla scandal. We saw him with the Prince's Trust. We saw him doing things to undermine his mother. There was a time he tried to leak things to the press about his mom needing to step down, which is probably why that woman refused to step down, by the way. She was like, yeah, F you. I'm staying here until I die. Anyway, which was funny. I love a petty woman. And yeah, yes, other than that, guys, please, I'm happy to be corrected. People that are real royal watchers, what has Charles done leading up to, and now that he's king, that is of note, beyond fighting with his son? I don't... And it's not just that he's fighting with his son. He is being cruel. He is refusing to get out of the way so that people can check and give his son security. I want to remind everybody, there is no public picture today that is available of Charles holding or touching any of his biracial or mixed race, or his grandchildren of mixed heritage. And I think that is intentional because there isn't any. Because I'm very sure Charles's people are aware. People are calling him Charles the Cruel, Charles the Nasty, Charles the Racist. And I'm very sure because these people like toadying up to black people when they want to pretend like they're not racist. If there was a picture of Charles even glancing in Archie's direction, it would have been in the media by now. There isn't any because Charles is a racist. And for those of you who are arguing with me, then I'm not saying it out of the air. I've posted the videos of Charles being a racist. We still don't have any picture of his grandchild and Charles has refused to see his grandkids. So I don't know how else to interpret it other than Charles is a racist and a wicked grandfather and just a nasty overall person. So yeah, I just wanted to use this opportunity to remind everybody that this article was being way too nice to Charles, in my personal opinion. But I think he was being fairly, it was giving him a decent amount of scrutiny. Your reign is under, so I guess in summary, all I will say is, Charles, I don't like you. I will never like you. Ever like you. There's literally nothing you will do now. Not one thing you will do now that will make me like you. But I will say this. If you want us to have this amount of respect for you, go and reconcile with your son. Even if you don't want to see him, give him security. You gave your mistress queen title, even though she's a consort. You gave her kids trusts. You've given her kids security. Somebody said something brilliant. I can't remember who you are. None of Camilla's grandchildren are being paraded in front of the press, unlike your son's actual children, which you, for whatever reason, are allowing this to happen. Nothing in your and they keep saying, oh, he has cancer, so he can't pass reforms. You can't pass a reform that at least protects the identity of underage royal children until they are old enough. You can't pass something to the press and say the kids are off limits. You can't do that. If that's the only useful thing you do with your reign, Charles, that would actually be quite impactful. I don't know. What do you guys think? Am I being mean? Yes. Because I don't like Charles and I don't like cruel people for no reason. So yeah, please feel free to drag Charles in the comments. William is a joke, so I don't even bother wasting my time with him. But I will say this though, the fact that William has not bothered to tell his brother what condition his father is in, honestly, these people are just waste people. Both of them, both Charles and William, waste men together. Horrible. Please let me know your thoughts in the chat. I have a video that I want to post up about the global reaction to the sexiest royal couple, the Sussexes. I don't want to get too carried away about it, but I'll post it later on. Have a good one, guys. Take care.